Today I'm going to be building the most realistic and detailed build I have ever made in Planet Zoo by building a pub. Alright, so the idea for this pub was just... Basically I found a 3D model of this pub on Pinterest, which led me to ArtStation. And the reason why I wanted to build this is, first of all, I just wanted to build this pub for the longest time, but it didn't really fit into Naturalis. So I was just thinking like, all right, how can I make this pub and still somehow, you know, not make it seem out of the blue? Yeah, I couldn't do that. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to build this pub because I want to do that. And, you know, when it comes to Naturalis, I don't know if anyone has noticed it. I hope not, but lately with Naturalis, I have been in a kind of funk where I've just not been as motivated to build in it. Probably because we've been building on it for so long that I just needed some kind of like refresh. And so then it was just like, yeah, I can build this pub. And then to make it more interesting, I'm going to try and make this pub as close to the original reference as possible, which also means that it's going to be really detailed. Like, this build is well over 20,000 pieces because pretty much everything had to be custom made. So the arches in the windows, and then you have the pillars with the framing, I don't know, like the end bits on the columns. Also, all had to be custom made because all of the items in Planet Zoo itself are too big. This is just a common thing with Planet Zoo and items and such. They're always just too big or they're too small. Like, they're almost never the perfect size. Or at least that's how I feel about most of the items. That it's always just like, if you were just like a tiny bit smaller or a tiny bit larger. But yeah, when it comes to this build, this pub, I think it's called the Skavernik, or at least that's, I think, how you pronounce it. And first I thought like, oh, this is your very standard like British pub. And it is like in the ArtStation page, it is set like, oh, it's modeled or inspired by like Georgian revival architecture in South London. But I had multiple people say like, yeah, this looks like something out of Boston. And then later I think it's like the game, that Scam game, the Day Before game. And I think it's like also set in like an East Coast US city. And it was just like, yeah, this very much looks like it could be like in Boston or at least on the East Coast. So I couldn't use the title. I'm going to build the most authentic British pub ever. No, so that's not going to be the title of this video. I don't know what the title is going to be. And this is a weird thing that like recently I've started just not started building with like the idea of like videos or something, but that very quickly just like, oh yeah, this is the hook for that video. And that's in a way kind of fun to just think of like, this is the crazy thing that's going to happen this time. And this is the crazy thing that happens this time. But anyway, so yeah, I wanted to build this pub and I thought like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great like holiday thing because, you know, everybody gets wasted on New Year's. Well, originally it was going to be the Christmas build, but then I decided, yeah, I'd rather also actually spend time with family on Christmas, so we're not going to do that. So then I decided, all right, this is going to be a holiday build, but it's going to be for like New Year's. Makes perfect sense because on New Year's, everybody gets wasted. So it makes sense to then build a pub. And yes, we're still building the windows because as I said, this build is big. So I want to try and put this on the workshop as like a blueprint, but then it has to be a habitat blueprint because again, it's like well over 20,000 pieces. Like every little bit of the reference or the inspo is just going to try to be replicated. Of course, there are things where I changed it a little bit because for some reason, I wanted to actually make this building useful. Don't know why, I don't know who is going to be able to use this build, but I decided I want to make this into a restaurant. Also, if you hear explosions in the background, Yeah, people are lighting fireworks and I can't really do much about that. So yeah, I'm not destroying the world. That is next month. So the world is not ending. If you hear explosions, you're fine. It's just kids here lighting fireworks. And it's not even a pretty kind. It's just the sounds and such. But yeah, that's what you will probably hear in the background. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, when it comes to just like the reference image, I'm going to try and replicate it as close as possible, but I wanted to, for some reason, make this building useful, so I made it into a restaurant, because I also wanted to just have the guests sit on like the or sit at the tables and such to make it feel a bit more alive. Although we both know that like in the end result, like the cinematics, I almost never include the guests. And also, again, why do I want to make this build useful? Why do I want to make this build out of all of them be on the workshop? It's over 20,000 pieces. Like, I built this in a completely empty map. Well, first of all, not because I just wanted to build it in an empty map, but also because it just didn't fit in with Naturalis. And here's the thing when it comes to building in empty maps, also for streams and such, I am amazed by how fast this game gets. Yeah, just zooming around like crazy. Naturalis doesn't let me do that. Naturalis, it's a lot slower. Like the frame rate is a lot lower. And I very much get the thing of like, oh yeah, I love this zoo. I would never be able to run it on my PC. As some people in the comments will say. Yeah, that's probably very much true. Like, even my PC is basically traumatized. But anyways, when it comes to this build, as I said, I try to make it useful. So when it comes to the restaurant, like in the reference image, there's basically two buildings, or sort of two buildings. But you have the front building, which is what we're working on right now, which is the actual pub. And then you have like a building behind it, which is probably just a regular house. But that's where I placed the restaurant module. Now the restaurant module is like not 6. Why do I say 6? But it's like 12 meters by 8, if I'm correct, which doesn't really fit in the actual pub, because then it's going to stick out. And I wanted to actually have an interior, because the pub, as the reference image shows, which hopefully by this point I've shown it on screen somewhere, but probably this video is going to come out right on like the last day of the year, so maybe I'm already completely wasted, but I hope that I've shown the reference. But anyways, the reference image, and well, it's not really a reference image if I'm trying to recreate it, I think. Anyways, the actual building or 3D model, it has just these really beautiful, like big open windows on the ground floor. And I was just like, yeah, this needs to be an interior. And it can't be an interior if one of those windows is blocked by the module of the restaurant. So I just pushed that back building back a bit further, or at least I expanded it a bit further so that I could actually put the restaurant in. And because everything is such like small scale in a way, all of the tables could just easily connect, even the ones outside. This also does mean that like the tables, like in the reference image, they are like this sort of picnic tables, but I had to change them to the actual restaurant tables in Planet Zoo. It still works actually pretty well, but there's some small changes that had to be made just because like some things just aren't able to be translated to Planet Zoo. Or there are things that I changed because I wanted to make it a restaurant, even though it's a pub. And I've completely hidden the restaurant module, like placed it just in its own corner. And then there's a doorway, of course, where the guests go in. I just completely blocked that off with a door, because that's the thing that I've learned with like, oh, I want to make interiors and such. Yeah, most people don't really mind if the doors are closed and you will just see the guests or the staff just sort of face through it. Or at least in images, you like screenshots and such, you just wait until they don't face through. You just wait until they're like close to the door. Just like, that's the thing when it comes to my videos and just my builds and everything. I always want to keep saying like, don't compare your builds or whatever you're doing to what you see on the internet, because it's like sometimes builds look awful from like 90 angles, but I'm only going to show you the other 10 angles. So that's like a big thing with like, yeah, when it comes to like the doors, I will not show you an image where the guests actually face through them. I will show you an image of like the guests getting to the door. And so when it comes to like other builds, it's like, oh yeah, from this angle, this build looks amazing. From that angle, you see all of the bits sticking out, all of the unfinished work and such, which paints a very just like, not delusional is not the right word, but it paints a very different picture than the picture that you might have of your own builds, because you know that those like angles are there. You know those unfinished corners. But you don't see them in my builds or any, I would actually say like any other creator there when it comes to Plan 2. Like you don't see that, so the builds look perfect. But I think any creator will tell you, yeah, there's like 9 different angles that just don't work at all. And then there's of course also just like the massive disparity between like skill level. So when it comes to me, at least in Plan 2, because I can only like use myself as a reference here if I want to, you know, present a somewhat realistic image, because I don't know any other. Well, I think most content creators have like 3,000 hours or around that point, like 2,000 hours in Planet Zoo. I have over 4,000 hours. So whenever you're comparing your build to like, let's say one of mine, you're comparing that to like somebody who has played Planet Zoo for way too long. So please, if you see this build, even this pub where I'm going to try and go out of my way to make it as detailed and realistic and as close to the reference image as possible, please don't immediately go like, oh, I could never build this or such. It's probably a good thing that you can never build it, because that probably means you have a life. I don't. So yeah, I always just want to keep saying like, the reason that your builds are great is because you built them. Like you spent the time into them. You put the effort into them. It's not really like the end result that makes them great. It's like the effort and the time that you've put into them that makes them great. So yes, all of you bastards watching, compliment your own builds. That's the task for today. Like I'm giving you homework today. Look at your builds and compliment them, because you spent the time in making them and you have basically turned your brain into mush building them. I think every build in Plan 2, no matter the skill level or anything, every build just turns brains into mush. And if you're then watching this video as well, then yeah, I feel bad, because this video also will just melt your brain. But anyways, back to the actual build. So when it comes to this build, as I said, I originally thought, oh, this is going to be a very like British pub, and then it looked more like a North or East Coast American pub. Although I do believe that there are also in England, again, the ArtStation like model did say that it was based off or was referencing Georgian, not revisionary, what is it? Well, like, I think I legit said the word in the beginning of this video and I just completely forgot it. Oh yeah, Georgian revival architecture. I think that's what it was. So it might also be in London or Britain, but we're just going to base it off of like, oh yeah, probably East Coast American. So when it comes to that, I was going to make a point here, but my brain was just like, nope. We're just going to completely forget what you wanted to talk about when you started talking about East Coast American. It was just like, nope, we're not going to even... Like, you had a thought there, Poison. And it just disappeared. It was just like, poof. This is, I think, the most weirdly conscious brain fart I've ever had. But anyways, so as I said, when it came to like trying to make this sort of useful, which again, I still don't understand why this build out of all of them I wanted to make useful, but I extended the back bit of the build or of the actual reference image just so that I could fit a restaurant module in it and be able to completely hide it, because again, the front build has these really beautiful big windows and I didn't want to block those with the restaurant module. So then it was just, oh yeah, right, let's make the back building larger and let's try and make it still clearly reference the actual reference image and make it clear that like, oh yeah, it is definitely based off of this, it just has an extension to it. I'm so happy that I started building this, because as soon as I was finished building, I just had so much more inspiration to go back into Naturalis. So this is also like a tip that I can give you guys. If you are building something and it's just like, it's not coming together. It's just like, you have had this idea and for some reason now it's just like, yeah, I can't, it's just like a clogged sewer drain. The idea is not coming out at any point. Maybe start building something small, like something different. Just build like a small stall or something, like something tiny. You probably don't build something like this because this is just complete madhouse. But build something small, build something different, like completely different. If you're building something modern, maybe build something historical or fantasy as such, because it's just like you need to get the brain going again. And maybe that just means, oh, you have to divert the train over a different track for a bit, so that when it comes back to the original track, it all feels like you're going downhill, which sounds very bad, but for a train it's good, because if a train goes downhill, it actually goes faster just by gravity. So, sounds very bad to go downhill, but I don't actually know. Why is saying like, oh yeah, it's going downhill a bad thing? There's probably like some reference that I'm not getting there, but like going downhill, like gravity just makes it a lot easier. Why is it always, why is like going downhill is usually like, oh, that's a negative thing. When in gravity, it's always a good thing because you don't have to put in that much effort because gravity is going to do the work for you. Yes, the image that I now have in my mind is a slinky going down a stair. I've never actually had a slinky and I'm kind of mad about it. Anyways, building the roof. Now, when it comes to building the roof, most of it was fine. Like the roof that we're building now is completely fine. Could I have made this extremely detailed? Yes. However, at some points I was just like, yeah, I could go extremely detailed here, but this is not like the interesting part of the roof. This is kind of just like, yeah, this is the roof, but there's a very interesting part to the roof, which is this sort of metal copper dome-like, well, not dome, but sort of dome-like structure that, again, hopefully by this point I have shown you guys the reference image, but then we both know that editing Poison and voiceover Poison are pretty much two different people by this point. Editing Poison is sometimes a little bit lazy, a little bit, and then voiceover Poison is the one that melts your brain. Hi, I have issues. Anyways, so when it came to the roof, I was just like, yeah, there's going to be these corners. I'm going to fix those. But I'm not going, like the original idea was like, oh, I'm going to put every roof tile in just as a separate piece to like really create like a dynamic roof. And then I was just like, yeah, most of this roof, first of all, is going to be hidden by all of the, what are they called? The sticking out points, the dormers. Sometimes I remember architectural terms. Most of the times I don't, but sometimes I do. And then I start questioning, why do I always forget them? I think they're called dormers at least. But yeah, most of the roof is going to be hidden by that, so didn't put in the individual tiles for the majority of the roof. But the copper dome structure, I did make all individual because it's curved and such in ways that I couldn't make it anything but this way. At least in my mind. There's probably like people pointing at the screen now and thinking like, oh, you could have done it this way or that way. Yeah, building poison just kind of gets into a zone sometimes, and then he just completely forgets other ways of building. But I also figured out like, hey, if you color the Indian stone pieces, they can very easily just look like copper, like plates and such, or I don't know what you call it exactly, copper beams? I don't know. But like, sometimes there's just like, oh yeah, I've never used this piece, and then you recolor it, and then it's like, ooh, this piece is going to be fun. So yeah, this entire building, or at least the roof, it's supposed to be metal, but in Planet Zoo, it's just made out of stone. Although it looks like metal. This building is the greatest catfish ever. Well, I mean, with the amount of detail, it's still like crazy and insanity. I think I made this entire dome on voice call with friends, and let me tell you, I was losing it, because when it comes to making these roofs, or at least like this dome structure, I always like it when it's like, oh yeah, I can use this corner on this corner, like all of the corners are pretty much the same. But because this building is kind of weird, I couldn't do that. So I had to modify all of the corners so that it looks smooth. Because this building, I first thought it was just a rectangle, but one side is like straight on, like 90 degrees from the front, but then the other one is on a slight angle. So made it a very interesting build, but I also had to like, oh yeah, I need to forget or not forget that this is not a rectangle, and so need to take that into account when using pieces. There's a lot of like minutia work that's going into this build. Anyways, since we're still working on the roof, and I just want to talk shit, I already mentioned the day before, which was that scam game that pretty much just burned as soon as it released. And like, yeah, I do keep an eye out for like all of the other games that are releasing, even though I might not be interested in them, because it's just interesting just to see like all of the games as such. And then there is the day before. I didn't get it. Like, I'm not interested in like most modern setting games. Like, I've actually had this talk with PS Vision, or we're just going to call him Vision again, of like, oh yeah, I'm very easy or very monotone when it comes to like the games I like. I want to be able to build either a city or a building. If it's not that, I'm usually not interested in it. So like GTA 6 that has recently been announced, I have no interest in it. GTA 5 was a great game. I'm not saying that it's bad or anything. It's just not in my wheelhouse of like things that I'm interested in. But I do like to like kind of keep an eye out for things to just like, it's just interesting to see what's happening. And then the day before happened. So for those who don't know, the day before was, as far as I know, because I didn't like during development, which you can't see this, but I'm like doing the air quotation things. But during development, it was, I think, advertised as like a zombie post-apocalypse MMO kind of thing. And then when it came out, it was nothing like that. There were zombies, but they were like very far and few in between. And then 4 days after it got released, everything about it was cancelled. The game was taken off of stream because it was pretty much a scam. And I think the company that was behind it completely closed its doors. And everybody who got that game is getting refunds. Because again, it was pretty much just a scam. Which, it was actually funny to like watch, of course, the videos of like updates on the game. Again, I never played the game myself, but it's just fun for me, at least personally, to just kind of keep an eye on things and just see what's happening with games. But to see like the updates, and then somebody, I think on Reddit, just made a whole list of like all of the used or bought assets, because it was like the game was made in Unreal and there's an Unreal store where you can buy assets. Buying assets for games in itself is not a bad thing. However, when the game is like, I think by this point 90% just bought assets, that's when it's like, alright, now you're overdoing it by way too much. So that was fun. But yeah, there's actually quite a few of the games from today or this year that was just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there was that Gollum game, there was that King Kong game. Like, there's a lot of games this year, I think, that have just like been released, crashed, burned, and then we're just, yeah. Like, there's a lot of like really good games this year, and then there were really bad games. Like, this year was like the biggest roller coaster, it feels like, when it comes to games. Like, usually you have like, oh yeah, you have a few bad games, you have a few good games, but most of the time it's just like, you know, regular games. This year it just feels like a fucking roller coaster that was on fire and went into like Satan's ass crack for a time. Like, this was insane. Also, just on the topic of games, as we're still building the roof, or at least we're building... Can you call this a dormer? I don't think this is a dormer, but anyways, we're still building the roof because damn, this roof took a long time. But on the topic of games, so as I said, I have a very just like, all right, I like these kinds of games. Most of the games that are outside of this, I don't really find interesting for me. Not saying that those games aren't good. They're just like, oh yeah, that's probably not going to be a game that I'm interested in. Cue fucking Elden Ring. So, Elden Ring is nothing like the games that I've previously mentioned, where it's like, oh yeah, can you build in it? No. Can you build like a city or any building? Like, is it any kind of simulation game? No. And I really thought like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy it then. Like, it's a great game. I don't think anyone is going to say otherwise when it comes to fucking Elden Ring. But I thought like, oh yeah, that is probably just a game that's like, it's not really my wheelhouse of games that I usually enjoy. And then it was on sale and I was like, yeah, I've seen a lot of videos about it. I'm going to just, you know, try it since it's on sale. And I am the kind of person who rage quits. Like, I still remember, like in the original Assassin's Creed, that there was like a mission that was just, for some reason for me, nigh impossible. I think I just got killed somewhere and then I respawned in a very unfortunate location. And so I kept dying and then I just rage quit. Like, I think I only picked the game up a year later and then finished it. So I was like, that's pretty much like the entire thing of like Elden Ring. It's like, you die a lot. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to ever enjoy that game because it's like probably not going to really fit that well for me. And here I am, just enjoying the hell out of it, and also just enjoying to just try and see like, oh, what's around this corner? Oh, could I defeat that enemy? Oh no, I got my ass handed back to me. Oh, let's see what's around this corner. Oh, I can kill that enemy. I can get some armor. And now maybe I can kill that other enemy that just handed my ass back to me on a silver platter. And keep repeating that. So yeah, I've now been playing a bit of Elden Ring. Although, for me, Elden Ring, and this might be like, why are you playing it like that? But for me, Elden Ring is like the game that, like, if I am bored or like I don't feel Planet Zoo for a bit, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to just pop into Elden Ring, fight a boss or something, like just ride around for like 30 minutes at most, and then I close the game again. I'm never in Elden Ring for long, but like we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time. That's the entire thing for me with Elden Ring. It's just fun. I'm not going to spend like hours in the game at a day like I sometimes do with Planet Zoo, but it's just like a fun thing to do otherwise. Anyways, back to the actual build, because I've been talking about Elden Ring, scam games, and just bad games. I should probably be talking about the build. So we're now building kind of just a back garden. Well, it's not really a garden. It's... what would you call this space? Because it's just like complete concrete and everything. It's not really a garden. It's just a courtyard, maybe, like the back courtyard might be the best way to describe it. And here it was just fun to just put in so much detail, but also usually I like really like pristine looking places because naturalis, of course. So I was just like, oh yeah, this back courtyard as such, there's so many fireworks going on right now. But like, yeah, this back courtyard, it just like, it doesn't look like decrepit or something. It definitely looks like, oh yeah, the people living here are probably not spending too much time here. This is like the time or the place where like you grab your bike and you ride off. This is the where you have like the trash cans and such. This is not really the place where you spend a lot of time in. So it's like overgrown, there's weeds, there's garbage and such. So it's not really like you would think of like a garden where you like spend like a nice evening or afternoon in after work or such. No, this is really just a very functional place. And in the reference, like this is the great thing of the reference that I used. It's a fully 3D model and it has like the video where it spins around so you can see every angle of the build. And then there's also like the individual parts that this model showed. Like, oh yeah, when it comes to windows, there's a page where it shows just like every window. It's just like sort of a cutout so that you can really see up close like, oh, these pieces and this is how this works and such. So when it came to building everything here, it was just really easy to build because I basically was... this is pretty much just like a paint by numbers kind of build, where everything was handed to me. I just had to figure out, all right, how am I going to translate this? Which, like, the reference was, I think, probably made in like Unreal Engine or like something along that line. Can the fucking fireworks stop? Don't they know that I'm Poison and I'm recording a video? Thank you. Give it 5 seconds and then it's fireworks again, because it's like I'm filming this on the 30th or recording this on the 30th. The fireworks have been going on for like a week. And the rain has been going for, I think, half a year. It feels like half a year now. But yeah, when it comes to like the reference, it just had all of it handed to me. Like, that's actually a thing, another tip that I would recommend. Maybe also go onto ArtStation and look for like models of buildings. Most of the times they show you multiple angles so that it becomes a lot easier. Because it's very, at least for me, when I started building things, it was very difficult to have like, oh yeah, I have one picture, one reference, which shows just one angle. So I could make that part of the building perfectly because I could just reference that image. But then every other side of the building was just like, how am I going to do that? So then it is actually fun to like look up 3D renders or models, because most often, or quite often, they show you different angles of the building and then you can like try and recreate it and you get to know the pieces. Like that's, I think, the best thing when it comes to like recreating stuff that's already there. It's that you don't really learn like, oh, how to build this or how to build this. You really get to learn an understanding and build up like a mental catalog of like all the pieces and how you can use them. Like that's just, the biggest thing when it comes to building for me. Is just like, yeah, I have 4,000 hours in Planet Zoo. So I have this like entire mental catalog of like, these are the pieces. These pieces I can use this way and that way and this way. Those other pieces I can't use that way, but I can use this way. So a lot of my building skills, I think, lie in that like I know the Planet Zoo pieces really well. But anyways, back to actually the building, the, I think you call it the grunge or something. Like, I really liked it about this building. That's like, yeah, it's old, it's used, and like, it's dirty and such. I like that. Like, this is again, like, I started building this building just to kind of get out of Naturalis for a bit. And this is like the complete opposite of Naturalis. Like, the building has grime, there's trash, and there's leaves. Actually, the original reference image is, I think, taken in fall, but here's again a change that I had to make of like, oh, we don't have those trees because they were birch trees, but the leaves were, of course, you know, orange, yellows, and such, which we don't have in Planet Zoo. The closest is the river trees, I think they're called, like the orange trees, but those were just like, I needed long trees. I didn't need short trees here. So I had to change that, but then I still kept the leaves and such, so it still feels kind of like a fall building. And yes, this is supposed to be like the holiday building, which is probably supposed to be winter. But I was not going to do that because this reference image was just so fucking great. I should probably also like put in like the artist who made it. I probably, or at least if editing Poison is any kind of smart, he will have put that in at the beginning. But again, editing Poison and voiceover Poison are two very different beings. And then you also have streaming Poison, who is just a chaotic mess. When it comes to the interior, this is really where it shows, because I've been messing around with like my stream setup, which means that in OBS I have like different scenes. And for those who don't understand what I'm saying here, basically in OBS you have different scenes where, like, for let's say streams, I have like overlays, so that's a scene, and then I have like different for like a beginning screen, that's a different scene. So there you have all these scenes. And then I have a recording scene, which is basically just showing the actual game and nothing else. I've recorded so much of this build on the wrong scene where it had like stream overlays. And no, after recording, I can't get those out. Or on like the beginning screen, which basically just shows nothing of Planet Zoo. So yeah, when it comes to the interior, this is where Stream Poison just basically fucked us all over, because a lot of the interior is just not recorded, or at least is recorded, but nothing of Planet Zoo is visible. So hopefully I will figure that out. Well, not figure that out. Hopefully Stream Poison will be better next year. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below, like, what are your plans for the new year? And yeah, I wish all of you guys a happy new year. Also, a late happy holidays and such. And again, let me know what your plans are for this year. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button with fireworks. If you want to see more, there's the subscribe button. And hey, maybe become a member, because that's also now a thing on this channel. We have memberships, which is basically just emotes. Anyways, have a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.